Hey, what's up? Oh, I forgot to talk to you. Hold on. Hold. Everybody hold. Oh, I
What?
forgot to start recording.
You dork.
I had one job. One.
When?
Yeah, I forgot to start recording. That's my bad. Hi, everybody. I'm a professional podcaster slash I haven't totally been live streaming for 8 years and have no excuse whatsoever. Hi, Wish. How are you?
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm tired.
Me too. But we're still gonna have a great day.
No way. No,
Way.
you don't know. I have to go to the airport today. I have to, all that fun stuff. Get on a plane with sick people. Probably come back sick. I have an earache right now. I'll be the sick person. I'll go there. I'll be the sick person.
Where are you going?
I'm going to San Francisco. I'm going out actually to the Twitch offices.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, I think they announced to today. I don't know if they've announced it yet, but I'm one of their ambassadors for this month. So for
Oh, for TwitchCon?
no, for just one of
Just
them.
an ambassador.
I think they're announcing it like all the details today, so stay tuned on their Twitter. But
Oh,
no, it's
gotcha.
women's month or whatever, Women's History Month. I'm sorry. I am so bad. I'm so terrible. But so they're featuring a lot of women. And I was one of the ones that they picked, and they even posted like a photo of my cosplay on their Instagram.
Aw.
I was pretty happy because they asked for a portrait, and I sent them like 5, even though they asked for like 2. And they picked the cosplay, and I'm like, yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, that's pretty exciting. I hope you don't get sick at all. I really
Oh,
like the
yeah.
Twitch offices. I haven't been to the new ones, but I went to the old one.
I went like a year ago. Is that the new ones?
Yeah, that's the new ones.
Okay, then yeah, I do like it. When you walk in, I just know that they have like a whole bunch of TVs up, and they always have streams on them, which is really interesting. And yeah, so you could just like watch like 12 people at the same time. If only I had a
It is
setup like
really cool.
that. It's way better than a giant screen.
I don't know if they still have like the scratch and sniff wallpaper, but I know at the old offices they did. It's like the schnozberries smell like schnozberries.
Yeah, but doesn't that smell like poop after a while? Like so many people scratch and sniff it that eventually it's got to smell bad, right?
I mean, I don't know. I don't have scratch and sniff wallpaper.
I mean, can't anybody have scratch and sniff wallpaper though? All you gotta do is put some perfume on it and be like, scratch it, now sniff it. And obviously it's gonna smell like perfume.
But does it smell like bananas?
Just spray banana perfume.
I okay.
What, you don't have banana perfume?
No, not a,
I'm obsessed enough with the bananas that I could see myself actually having banana perfume. So
so good.
yeah. Someone would be like, why does it smell like bananas in here? Are we at a supermarket? Nope, that's my perfume.
Mm.
Does it
I'm
turn
just
you
gonna
on?
eat you.
I could just eat you up. Is that really what you just said to me?
Yes.
Did you really? No.
Yes. Whatever. Get out.
So it hasn't been a full week, but Wish and I decided to change our podcast days to Thursday morning. They work out a little better than Saturday. And I'm going out of town, so I won't be back till Saturday. But Wish, it's been almost a week. So how have you been? How's your week been? What are you up to? What are you doing? Where are you
Uh,
going? What's your social security? What are we doing here?
My social security number is 8675309.
Hey, that's mine
Yeah,
too.
yours too. Nice. Yeah, no, this week has been pretty rad. I'm very excited about what we're talking about today. I do want to let everybody know as you're listening, this is a mature stream, a mature broadcast. If you have a problem with murder, gore, and the details, it's probably best you leave now. We do recommend
Yeah.
18 years and older for listening from now on.
But we can't be your mom. So tell your mom and ask her. No one ever does that. Come on. When I was a kid and they'd be like, you must enter your age. I'm like, I know how to cheat this. I was always like in the 50s, you know? It's always
Mm-hmm.
in the 50s. And I'd be like 13. They had that stuff since the beginning of the internet. But yeah. No, this is definitely mature content. Some very gruesome stories. And obviously not all of them are going to end up in murder, but quite a few gruesome stories do. So
Right.
I know that we are going to be covering at least one or two murder cases today. I think, Wish, you have two stories today.
Well, I only had time to get up together one, but it's a good. I mean, none of it's good. None of it.
None of
None
it's
of it's
good?
good. But it's
Oh, I see what you're saying. I was like, wait.
interesting.
So your story's gonna suck.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Basically, it's gonna suck. No, it's
Listen.
actually a very interesting story. And I could briefly go over the other case as well.
Yeah, we can
But
do
it
that.
won't be as in detail as the.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, I think I know one of them, but I don't know the other one. And I don't know if it's something like in the future, do you want to start like telling each other the podcast, like what not podcast, what we're going to be covering on it before it, or do you want to like be surprised?
I mean, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
The only reason I'd even want to tell you, because I like the idea of surprise, but the only reason I'd even want to tell you is when we do viewer picked pod, like from our Facebook and from our Discord, our viewer picked topics. I don't want to cover one that you are also covering,
Right.
because it'd
That
be
makes
like,
sense.
yeah, because then it'd be like, wait, we both have the same thing. This is gonna be a short podcast. So, yeah. Uh, Oh wait, I did switch us around and I forgot to Oh! I did it. Nobody look. Wish Tell me your favorite bedtime story. Nobody watch this. Oh my god, why does it keep doing the wrong one? There we
My
go.
favorite bedtime story. What did I dream about last night?
I don't even remember. I just remember I have some like pretty messed up dreams. And then I wake up and I'm like, I don't even want to think about that. Like I can't. Some of my favorite dreams are dreams where like actually, you know what? There was a dream and for some reason I was sleeping on the couch that day and I just fell asleep on the couch and I had this dream. And in it, I was running from this person. I think it was a person. And I'm in this warehouse just running and running and running. And they keep getting through despite me like locking the doors and closing them and keep running through this warehouse. Finally, I get out of the warehouse. This warehouse, it was not a typical warehouse. It was like a giant puzzle. And kind of like what you'd see in a scary movie. But so I'm finally out of it and I run home and I go and lay down exactly where I'm laying down. And in it, I suddenly switch to the point of view of the person and I like break down my own door and I go and this person is like standing over the couch looking down at me as I'm sleeping and I wake up and I'm just absolutely like terrified. Oh man, that was like probably the most messed up dream I'd ever had. So
That is actually scary, being lost or stuck someplace and you can't.
yeah.
I think the scariest story for me is like when I'm waiting tables, like because I used to be a waitress for so many years, and so the idea of being like waitresses and
Yeah.
waiters say in the business being in the weeds, it's like you get sat all your tables at once and you can't help everybody. I think that's the scariest nightmare ever.
It's I hated waiting tables, but honestly at the same time, I was one of those waiters that or waitresses that was just like, I don't care. You're going to have to wait. I don't care. I was basically I'm saying I was a bad waitress. My nightmare besides well that was a nightmare, but my nightmare besides that was not having my homework done for college. I would go in and be like, "Wait, there's a test today and I had to turn in a paper. Wait, and I have to do a speech?" No. That was like a nightmare and I wake up really stressed out. But apparently they said that's like an indicator of like you're doing too much in your life, like you're overworking yourself.
That makes
So,
sense.
yeah. And I was like, wow, I am actually overworking myself. So every time I have a nightmare about college and homework, I know that I'm overworking myself now. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah. Most of my nightmares, actually, I really like monster ones. Like, I like zombie nightmares a lot. And I don't actually consider them nightmares. I like ghost nightmares. I'm like the opposite of my family who hate that stuff. And then my second most prominent nightmare was my mom turning into a T-Rex and trying to eat me. That's like my second most prominent night, like legit terrified. I was in my, like, I think I was like 12 or 13, but I had it more than
Mm-hmm.
once. I had it when I was like 17 as well.
I had
And
a. Sorry to interrupt you
it
really
was good.
fast. I also had a reoccurring dream with a dinosaur, strangely enough. But
She would turn into a T-Rex and she would hunt me down and try to eat me. And I would hide under a car and then she would step on the car and just stuff like that. And it was this recurring nightmare that I would just like, and I would be scared of my mom the whole next day. And she wouldn't know why because I didn't want to say, well, Mom, I dreamed about you eating me as a T-Rex.
my mom would be like, "That's right. You should be scared of me." I'm like,
Yeah, well, I'm sure she wouldn't have minded, but uh that's probably like my scariest, most like just dumb dream where you wake up and you're like, that's a dumb dream, but that was so scary. Why am I sweating? So,
"Are you
no,
sweating now?"
no, I'm not. I mean, I don't know actually. No, I don't think so. I don't know. That makes me a little nervous just thinking about it though. So, but no, it's been a fun time. It's been a long week. It's been a really long week for me, but sounds like it's been a wait, what?
What?
Why? Oh, I thought you I was like, why are you making that face?
No, I feel like it's been a long week too. Sorry, I am
Yeah.
making faces too.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I thought you were making that at me like, what? It's Thursday. It is. Yes.
No.
It is Thursday. But no. Okay. So, my name's Pocket and I play video games and work on cosplay for a living and also happen to like true crime. And this is
Seriously, killer.
no, wait, you're supposed to say your name.
Oh.
You're supposed to
My,
say your name. God. Uh.
it's my name is
It's okay.
Thank you. Okay, my name is Wish, and I also play video games for a living and do other things. Okay, like
It's very
fascinating
good
adventures.
self-promotion right there.
Thank you, thank you. You know, I'm very humble. You know, and yeah, this is seriously killer.
The Seriously Killer podcast.
Here we go.
And you can find
Fantastic.
us on Spotify and Facebook, and you can exclamation point murder in my chat and find us on Discord. A lot of people in the Discord group. There were quite a few people talking since the last podcast, and it's been really exciting. Seeing people just like talk about their own stories or talk about each other's stories and introduce themselves. So I've been having a lot of fun with that group. And
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No, interrupt me.
people having a discussion, having conversations, that's what we're here for. That's what the groups are for. So make sure to go ahead and join up on those. Everybody's really friendly. If they're not, we'll take care of it.
Yeah, that's true. We have a nice mod team already that are ready to ban. No, not everyone. Just not nice people. But so far everyone's been pretty nice. It's kind of intimidating because we actually have in the Discord alone we actually have some people that have some like backgrounds in criminal justice and so it makes it a little intimidating when you're like, oh, well, I will try my best to get my facts straight, but always we can correct it if we need to the next week. Like, oh, by the way, his name was Martin, not Michael. Like, just stuff like that. Like, we can correct it. So,
Right.
I do not have a criminal justice background. I'm just very fascinated with this. I did obviously come from a military family and police family, but no background for me. just fascinated. So, I do believe it is your turn to start first.
Well, this is very stressful to start first, but I'll go ahead and do. Today, we're talking about hometown crimes, and what is so strange is that for people that don't know, I'm from North Carolina, uh, in a relatively busy like metropolis area of a bigger city. Um, I grew up. Well, once I say this, I mean anybody can pretty much look it. But I grew up in a military town, and it's called Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Um, and here we get it's basically like a melting pot of a bunch of different types of people since there's an army base. So I've grown up with all different types of people, and that means that I've grown up with murderers as well. What's crazy enough is that there's there's more than one person that I know that's turned out to be a murderer, and unfortunately, um, it's just super unfortunate for their victims.
Yeah.
The first case that I'm going to be talking about today is something that was on the news pretty recently, within the past year, but the Chris Watts case, coming out of Frederick, Colorado. In Pocket, did you watch any of this unfolding on the news?
Chris Watts was actually someone that I looked into after all of it had happened. I don't have the news. I don't have the news. So I went and looked into it afterwards and actually listened to a true crime podcast that does their research, has their ducks in a row, facts straight, and they laid out the whole thing. And I have looked at I like done my own research. Also, the first time I ever heard about it was on Philip DeFranco's YouTube. And I was just like, is this real? Like, there's no way this is real. And that it's a pretty gruesome story. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'll let you tell the details, but this is one that I was very much like, what kind of person can do this? So
Yeah, what type of person indeed? Well, it turns out that I went to high school with Chris Watts, and he was in my third period world history class, um, when I was a sophomore in high school. And he literally sat I could still see him sitting behind me, three seats behind me. Yeah, crazy,
yeah.
right?
Uh,
So the
how
thing with
wait?
Chris,
Did you know anything about him then? Do you remember anything about him?
oh no,
Oh, okay.
no.
Just you
Well,
kind of just
there's
different
like
crowds.
yeah, there's like basic stuff. Well, see, I was like a social butterfly in high school, where Chris Watts wasn't. Like he kept to himself, like for real. But he was like like the cute boy, like all the girls had a big crush on this guy,
Yeah.
and uh he was just a cutie patootie. But like he did a lot of mechanics. Like he was really into like that sort of things. Like I just
Like
remember the
more of a
mechanic.
geek or techie type person?
Not more of a
No?
geek or techie, but like more like he liked NASCAR and cars.
Oh,
Like
okay.
he worked at literally, because we had a mechanic shop on added onto the school, so like he literally worked there a lot. And I believe that he used to work at like the auto zone up the road, but I'm not sure. Um. Anyway, so I it's crazy to see this come out when it did, because I remember checking on Facebook and I just kept seeing this video, and they're like, oh my god, I went to high school with this guy. You know how like Facebook is, and people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Well, I started seeing Chris pop up on the line, and I also wasn't like his Facebook friend or anything, but like, I mean, literally we were like, we did not talk to each other, just straight up. You know what I mean? I just know that he was cute, and we were in the same class. But other than that, like people kept talking about it, like, oh my god, Chris was so nice. Chris was so nice. I hope they find. At this point, we didn't know that his wife and his daughters were murdered. So, um, everybody was just like super shocked, and they was just like, because at first this whole story begins with Chris Watts coming out to the police
Yeah.
and or to the news people and giving interviews, which was very Scott Peterson of him, might I add. But that's what was popping up on my Facebook feed, is this interview from the news channel about Chris Watts looking for his wife and children. Or not so much looking, more so like asking for them to come home. But he seemed very weird. I already got like the creepy vibes off of it because, you know, just his body language was like screaming at me, like, oh, you know, something ain't right here.
And
So,
one thing to note about the interview is that
mhm.
when I went back and listened to it and watched it, is you're right, something didn't even strike me right, and I'm going back looking knowing that he already had done it, but he gulped a lot, very loudly. Like, was very loudly gulping the whole time. Like, you could hear it. And if you go
Mhm.
back and watch, you can actually be like, oh my gosh, he really is. Like, you can hear him gulp several times. And it kind of reminds you of, like, a little kid who, like, had done something wrong, but they're lying about it to their mom and they're gulping. I don't know. That's what it kind of, like, reminded me of. And a lot of tells, you could say.
A
And
lot of
and
tales.
the way
Yeah.
he worded everything, the way he worded it is, you know, very interesting as well. I don't know if you're gonna go into the details of that.
I am gonna go into some more details. I got
Okay.
a lot of information to throw at you
No,
guys.
go ahead. Go ahead. Go
I'm just
ahead.
giving you guys the overview of how I came about this case, and
Sorry, I
you know,
didn't mean to steal your
connecting.
thunder. Sorry.
No, no, you're fabulous. You're fabulous. Like how I came to like this is how it unfolded for me as somebody that, you know, went to school with him. So,
Yeah.
you know, seeing this interview pop up on Facebook, and I'm just sitting there like, oh, this is weird. Like, this is super weird because, like you said, the tells, like he was rocking back and forth. He was holding his arms close to himself, crossed armed, like closing himself off. He was constantly rubbing his lips together. So then, you know, it started to come out more and more. Both the families are from this area. So his family, obviously, and her family is a county away. So like it was big news here around the Fort Bragg area. And, you know, her family was pleading for somebody to give them some information, and his family was acting really strange as well. So I'm just, it was just the damnedest thing to watch it unfold from this far away. It started to come out that, oh, Chris might be a suspect because he's now had, like, it came out that he had an affair with a coworker named
Yeah.
Nicole Kissinger, and she actually gave an interview to the news as well,
Mhm.
which is so strange to me. Like, before anybody's charged with murder, she's coming out giving an interview saying, "I didn't even know he was married." Like, this is super sus as well.
Yeah.
So we are all literally, you know, sitting on the edge of our seats. Like, did she do it? Like, why did
Who
he?
did it
You know,
and why?
yeah,
Yeah.
this is getting strange. You know, unfortunately, it did turn out that they found a body at the work site of Chris Watts, and technically the young lady that he was having an affair with, Nicole Kissinger, who also worked for the same oil company. In fact, her father owned the oil company that Chris Watts was employed at. So they found the deceased body of Shanann Watts, who was pregnant at the time, and the two young daughters, Bella and Celeste, age 4 and 3. They found Shanann Watts' body in like a burial pit almost, and they found the two bodies of the little girls in two separate oil tanks on the site. So, you know, someone had stuffed the bodies in the oil tanks. So sad. Terrible, terrible to hear. And I just
Yeah.
remember crying for those little girls and the unborn child, and, you know, Shanann, of course, when all this started to come out. And, you know, as somebody that's, you know, here in North Carolina and seeing the families, well, the mother of Chris Watts started giving interviews to the local news station here, and defending her son, saying that her son did nothing, and Shanann probably killed the kids, and
And
then
buried herself?
exactly.
What?
It's all of a sudden Chris came out and said, Shanann killed the children. I killed her in a rage for killing the kids. This is how it came out. And then the mom of him was like defending him, like, she was a bitch, she was very controlling. My son, was just a great husband, a great father, and like she did all this stuff. Well, it turns out that Shanann had issues with the mother-in-law as well. Shanann asked the mother-in-law, after visiting North Carolina during the summer, to not give Bella, I believe, who was allergic to nuts, any ice cream and nuts in it. And then the grandma or the mother-in-law was just like, we can't always get what we want, even though the child has a severe nut allergy.
That's not really how that works. Like, that's not about getting what you want. It's about not giving someone something they're probably I'm gonna assume deathly allergic to. I've known people with nut allergies,
right.
and they're like, they can't even smell it without having a reaction. So
Exactly. My ex, he could not even be in the same place where there were traces. So, the mother-in-law, Chris Watts' mother, is on the television saying, I believe my son wholeheartedly. I stand behind my boy. Well, it turns out that during this time as well, Chris Watts is confessing, saying, I did kill Shanann. I did, but, she killed the babies, and I didn't know what to do. I panicked. I took the bodies out to the dump site. Nicole Kissinger had nothing to do with this. So here comes the girlfriend coming back out. Turns out that her interviews to the police got leaked as well to the press, and she had told the press before, I had not, I didn't know he was married, I didn't know he had kids, all this other stuff. Turns out she had Googled Shanann a year before they even started talking, knew about the children, knew that he was still married, and they constantly talked about if he was going to leave his wife. And it turns out Nicole Kissinger, in my opinion, was very manipulative of Chris. And I still think to this day, now this is super, obviously my own opinion, but I think she had something to do with manipulating him, because she would go out on Tinder dates with different guys because he wasn't making a move to leave his wife.
I heard though that he also had promised her, said to her that he was just living like in the basement. Like, he had said to her he was living in the basement until the divorce was final. So he had told her that. And honestly, I feel the same way about him. I feel like he was massively manipulative, and that things just weren't going his way with his family. I believe they were having financial troubles, and then he had another baby on the way. He was unhappy, and that I feel like those financial troubles he just kind of blamed his family for. And then he found this young new girl and saw a new hope. And that's actually something that is a common thing apparently amongst men, is sometimes the men that go and they do kill their family, it can be linked to financial troubles. There's like 4 things that it's commonly linked to. One is like disappointment with the family, like it didn't turn out how they wanted it to. And then one is like financial troubles, and I forgot what the other 2 are, but those are 2 very common ones. And
absolutely. Yeah.
and so it's like, well, this one didn't work out, or I'm having a lot of trouble with this one, so I'm going to start over. Which at that point you're like, well, just divorce and let them go then. Like, don't kill them. That's not how you solve that. But that's what I heard, and I honestly think that I think a lot of it was on him. And even if she's like, I imagine she was pressuring him to leave. But I could imagine as the mistress of a man that is sleeping on the couch of his wife's home, that she wouldn't be like, kill your family. Like, I can't imagine even think that being a thing. And I don't know. I don't know if she ever said that she did that, but I doubt she wanted him to just off the family. I imagine she's like, just leave already. leave for me, or I'm gonna move on.
Right.
So
Well, I have like a couple, like, I'm not saying that she whispered in his ear, but
no, you know
have
what
a
I'm saying.
few I have a few suspicions, and I'm going to get to those
Okay.
in a few minutes. Let me give you a brief rundown really fast.
Okay.
And this is to set, like, as I've been explaining, this has been from my perspective as somebody who's watched this unfold from Facebook, from the news outlets, and this is the more comprehensive version of what happened. Upon returning from a business trip in the early hours of August 13th, 2018, Shanann Watts got into an argument with her husband, Chris Watts, in their Frederick, Colorado home when he confessed to having an affair and wanting a divorce. According to Chris's confession to authorities, Shanann, who was 15 weeks pregnant with their son, proceeded to threaten Chris, saying he'd never see their daughters or son again, which prompted him to strangle her to death. The 4-year-old Bella reportedly walked into the scene after Shanann was killed and asked her father, "What are you doing?" Which is so fucking heartbreaking. Oh my God.
Yeah.
According to Chris's lawyer, Chris had told Bella that her mother wasn't feeling well and they had to take her to the hospital. So then he loaded Shanann's body and his $2 in the car and drove to the work site of Anadarko Petroleum. On this car ride, it was reported that, like, the two babies, I call them babies, but they're little girls.
They
The two
were
little
very
girls
young.
they were comforting each other, and it was like almost like they knew what was happening. Once again, that's speculation on my part, but like, it has been said that they were comforting each other. According to Chris, like, he said that he felt like they knew something was up.
Yeah.
Once there, he smothered Celeste to death with her favorite blanket and pushed her body into an oil tank. Now, this is where it gets graphic, because I want to let you guys know that a child, like, across the shoulders is probably about 8 inches wide. The hole for the tank was 4 inches. So terrible. He put her body into the oil tank. When he returned to Bella, who watched him kill her younger sister, she pleaded with her father, "Please, Daddy, don't do that. Don't do to me what you just did to Cece." And this is coming from Chris. Like, he literally says this. Like, he looked at his daughter in the face, and she's begging for her life, and he doesn't. He kills her. Chris proceeds to murder Bella and push her body into another oil tank. He buried Shanann in a grave on the property site. Now, when Shanann missed multiple appointments the following day, she had an ultrasound scheduled for that day. Her friend, who had just went on a Thrive business trip with her, she ended up she felt like really weird about it. So her friend Nicole Atkinson, who dropped her off, contacted Chris and the local police department because Shanann Watts had suffered from lupus and different complications. So, like, her friend Nicole was like really concerned, like, why she missed her appointments.
Yeah.
So at first, Chris denied, like, knowing where his wife was. Like, what's going on? He said that they were having marital problems, but he finally confessed to the murders on August 15th after failing a polygraph test. The bodies of Shanann and their unborn child, named Nico, and their 2 daughters were recovered the next day. On August 21st, Chris was charged with first-degree murder on 5 counts, 1 count for each child under the age of 12, along with 1 count of illegal termination of pregnancy and 3 counts of criminally disposing the deceased bodies. Finally, on November 6th, he pleaded guilty. Like, he didn't go to trial. Chris was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole on November 19th, and Shanann's family didn't pursue the death penalty. I think they just wanted it over, like, their nightmare to be over.
One thing that I heard about the family is that even though that he pleaded guilty, is that they didn't know that he killed the 2 daughters, and then that, like, one the whole time was, like, begging, like, not just like, please don't kill me, but like, please don't kill her, and was begging the whole time, like he murdered one of the children in front of the other. And they didn't know that because that didn't come out till later. And then after the trial ended, he had confessed that he killed one in front of the other, and the other was like begging the whole time for him to stop. And then that's when, like, her family had been like, wow, if we had known that, maybe we would have thought differently, because that's gruesome, and that's a monster. You are a monster. I mean, you're already a monster for all that he did before that, but like
Right.
that, it's just you are a monster. He is a I mean, he's a monster, not you. Wish you're not a monster. He's a monster.
Thank you. Yeah,
But
no.
yeah,
He is a monster, and that's the point. His family ended up, you know, how I said that they were on the news, the local news here, you know, saying, oh, Shanann, she definitely had to kill the kids. Obviously, his family ended up recanting their statement and apologizing to Shanann's family for, you know, the accusations and just the nastiness that they had spewed over the news here, the news there, all over the place. Chris was he was initially sentenced to jail time in Colorado, but because the case was so popular in Colorado, he actually got transferred over to the Dodge Correctional Institute in Wisconsin. And you know, he was there for a while. So this past February, like last month, Chris got interviewed by the FBI or the SBI of Colorado at this point, and then that's when the confession about the Bella incident came out.
yeah.
And he was talking about what really happened at that point. Which, you know, he said that he just wanted to get it out and he thinks about it every day. And at this point, he also said he doesn't even remember being a father. Like, he thinks it's all a dream. And he hears his daughter Bella saying over and over again in his head, please don't do that, Daddy. Please don't hurt me. Good is what I say.
He sounds
But
very he just, I mean, he sounds very not in his right mind. He just sounds very
yeah,
not in his right mind. Very I mean, I don't know what you would diagnose it as, but he's a psychopath. He in the interview where he was contacting police for the first time saying find my daughter, bring them, or find my family, bring them home, I miss them. A
mm-hmm.
lot of psychologists actually said he was probably being honest. Like, he actually was being honest. Some of the wording he was using made it seem like he knew that they were gone forever. But he was probably being very honest and saying, I miss them, bring them home. I just want to return to normal. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that he was actually, that's actually how he felt. And that he, at that point in time, probably knew and was starting to grasp what he had actually done. And
Like,
so,
put it two and two together, because
yeah.
apparently he says that he just blacked out, which, you know, you hear that a lot with like various murderers saying, you know, they don't even remember why. And I've never killed anybody, so I don't know, you know, but that's, you know, what he was saying. You know, he doesn't really remember, but then it's starting to come back to him. I also will say this about his mistress. In November 2018, Chris Watts's mistress, Nicole Kessinger, spoke publicly about their brief affair. According to Nicole, the two had only recently met, which was a lie,
Yeah.
and became physical that July. She alleged that Chris told her that he was in the middle of a divorce, which I believe is true, that he did say that, and that he was finalizing financial details with his wife, which I also, guys will, I mean, I'm gonna be super honest, guys will say anything, you know, to get a hold of a girl. So, and women too, obviously. So once hit with the news that Shanann and her two daughters were missing, Kessinger began asking Chris questions. Feeling that he was lying to her, she contacted the local police department and fully cooperated with authorities. She said, I just wanted to help with a pregnant woman and two children missing. I knew I was going to do anything that I could. Now, what's so crazy to me about like the Nicole Kessinger thing is that she was Googling things like, will he ever leave his wife for his, or will they ever leave their wife for a mistress? She was Googling wedding dresses. She was Googling different things about sexual positions. She was, and
It
this is
blows my
literally,
mind. It absolutely blows my mind that anyone who has an affair, like, is the mistress, or I don't know what you
mm,
call the guy doing that. But like, is the person that's outside the actual relationship having an affair. It blows my mind that they would even want to marry that person who so clearly is willing to cheat on their spouse.
Right.
Oh, it won't, like, it's this level of it won't happen to me, which maybe is narcissism. Like, oh, it won't happen to me. I'm too perfect for them. And it's like, what? They're doing it to their own family. Like, for what I assume would be several weeks, months. It
Mm-hmm.
can very well happen to you. And I don't understand that at all. Just don't understand it. So,
Yeah, I actually feel like um I think Nicole was delusional as well, and I like what's weird to me, and this is once again speculation on my behalf. Like, I know that a lot of people want to like defend Nicole, saying that she didn't fucking know anything, but and I she was googling about like how to delete text message. She deleted half her text messages from Chris. They can't even recover them, apparently. And just she said, you know, I just wanted to get rid of him out of my life once she disappeared. Like, that's super suspicious to me. And I know people want to like defend Nicole and stuff, but that seems pretty suspicious. Now, I think the biggest takeaway from this, besides you know, him finally coming free and talking about how he murdered his children and his wife, is that there's so many obsessed fans of his out there. Like, he has so many, like, the prison said that he gets so many letters from all these females all the time, sending him
he
pictures and
doesn't.
saying they believe him, and trying to connect with him. It's so, because honestly, Chris has always been a cute dude. Like I said, ever since he was young, and that's what the newspaper here reminisced on. Like, oh, he was so cute and so sweet. You know what I mean? But like, the ladies are sending him like all these things in prison. Like, the dude killed his wife and his kids. Like, are you serious right now?
Well, and he doesn't just have like letters. He has visitors, like women visiting him in so he's not being really punished at all. He has women that are throwing themselves at him. So now he's without a family. He doesn't really need to worry about his financial situation, and he has all the women he can get. So honestly, it's like the opposite of justice, I feel like. This guy has more fans now because he's an attractive male that people just don't want to believe it'll ever happen to them. And there is a level of I have no idea, but it's very delusional to think that it can't happen to you just because it only happened to someone else. And to blame the wife and the kids as the problem instead of saying, well, no, maybe the person that murdered them is the problem.
Right.
Which it just requires some level of, I mean, a sane person would immediately go, wow, he's the problem. He murdered them. He's the one that was cheating. He's the one that was like the scum in the situation. And not just be like, oh yeah, it was totally the wife's fault. She probably wasn't making him very happy. But she was actually complaining about how, not complaining to him, but talking to her friends about how unhappy she was and how his attitude toward her had changed a lot. So she was
Right.
actually the friend that called that immediately got suspicious when she didn't go to the her appointment. She had been talking to her about how she felt the marriage was like rocky and unstable and she wasn't happy. So,
Right. Well, when you go back and you like look at all the details from the case, there are so many text messages out there from Shanann to her friends saying, "I'm canceling the baby gender reveal party. It feels like Chris wants to leave me. He's not being very supportive. He says he doesn't want a baby now." So you have that aspect that maybe he, because of the financial stress, or maybe because he wants to be free. To continue his affair with Miss Kessinger, he starts to doubt this baby. There was even rumors saying that baby Nico wasn't even Chris's. Like, it was rampant out there, and just very sad. Like, there is extensive case reports that you guys can look up on Reddit, on various news sites out of Colorado, where it literally lists all the text messages, and it's a lot. So if you guys have like a day to go through it, you can listen to his audio files, Nicole Kessinger's audio files, as well as read all the texts and transcripts and all the different interviews they conducted with various people in connection to the case. It's crazy, but ultimately Chris, I think he just wanted to, I think he got upset and wanted to be free. And my best advice is just to not, if you want to leave somebody, you don't have to obviously kill them. So, yeah.
And if you want to cheat, then just leave somebody.
Right?
I don't know if it's this fear of like confrontation or what people will think, or will you have friends afterwards, but just leave. I guarantee more people will respect you for leaving than for staying and cheating anyway.
Exactly.
I just never have really understood that mentality either. There's a lot of things, I mean, as we go through these cases, there's a lot of things where I'm like, I don't understand this at all. Going into the psychology of it, though, is really interesting because, I mean, there's been total breakdowns of his psychology during this and how he was so emotionless until the reality of the situation actually started to set in. And he started to realize what was happening. And like you said, he's like, well, I just can't keep this in anymore. And how disassociative he was from the situation, feeling like it was a dream, but knowing that it was real. And I think I almost feel like that's almost a defense mechanism for him, not to go crazy. He already did something crazy, but I don't know, to not lose himself to the madness, because he has to kind of disassociate himself from the situation to protect his mental barrier. Kind of like how when people can happen upon a dead body, but they see it as a mannequin. That's very common. And they don't realize it's a dead body because it's like almost protecting them from the trauma of finding a dead body. So, I don't know.
Well, I hate to, bring up this person, but like Logan Paul, when he went into the suicide forest and he laughed uncomfortably, I think that obviously I don't agree with filming in the suicide forest, knowing what is there, but you could see him like have a moment. Like, I don't think he was laughing to be disrespectful. I think it was a coping mechanism. Like, I don't think he really expected to see that, and then he didn't know how to react. So
there are a lot of cases involving people who do laugh in a very traumatic situation, and I almost feel like I'm one of those people because I've been to a funeral and laughed before, but felt horrible about it because I wasn't. It was just my mechanism. My mechanism when I'm upset, like really deeply upset, is to laugh, and to laugh at things that aren't funny, that I know are not funny, and it makes me feel so bad that I have avoided going to funerals because it's like I can't handle it. I can't handle funerals. Obviously if someone very close to me passes, I will go, but thankfully that hasn't happened yet. But I have that mechanism. Now I will blame Logan Paul for uploading the video anyway.
Oh yeah,
I will blame him for that. Not for how he reacted, but for how he still uploaded the video. It should have never been uploaded.
Absolutely, I agree.
So, and that's one reason why cops or police and detectives can't necessarily hold someone's initial reaction to a situation against them if it's like, well, she's suspicious because she laughed. Because that happens. That actually happens with people. Or they're suspicious because they're very emotionless. That could be someone's way of like being in this like, what is it? This state of apathy due to like they just can't handle the emotion. They will shut down if they take it all in at once. If that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does, and I believe that's what happened in this case. That's why he disconnected and literally just said, I don't remember even being a dad, kind of thing. So, yeah, it's absolutely heartbreaking to know that the babies at the end, especially Bella, who was very aware of what was happening when she, her sister died, and saying, please don't hurt me. Like that breaks my freaking heart.
I feel like he had a level of psychopathy, though. Like, he was a psychopath. Because I think that he built himself around his own reality. I feel like he lived in his own reality. He didn't live in reality. And so when his own reality was shook up via his own actions, that
Mm-hmm.
really affected him because he's like, my reality is no longer my reality. It's now a different reality and it's not what I want. And so I think that the reason, I don't even know if the reason that he regrets, or if he regrets, or if he feels anything, like he said he wanted to get out stuff about the daughter, I feel like it would be because his own reality was changed, not because of what the reality of the situation actually was. Does that make sense? Like, he's remorseful about changing his own reality.
Well, I don't think he's a psychopath, actually.
Yeah, I think you have to be
Yeah,
some level of psycho to
kill a
kill
child,
kill
or
anyone, honestly.
I think
So,
he's a narcissist.
oh, certainly.
Uh, I think he was upset because he got caught. You could tell in the interview. Who gives a fucking interview when your kids and your wife is missing?
Yeah.
Only narcissists, really, who want that attention, who, kind of clamor at it, you know, that's my opinion. He really enjoyed the attention that he was getting from his Kessinger. He probably revels in the attention that he gets from these females who while he's in prison. So yeah, I think maybe not a psychopath, even though you do have to be some level of crazy to kill somebody and be okay with it, much less
But
your
the thing
children
is
and your
like
wife.
people are actually saying in chat too as well. Psychopaths are usually the biggest narcissists. Uh, and they
True.
want that attention. Like, if you think about a psychopath, and they can also have sociopathy. Like, several different things can exist inside of a killer, and usually that is very much the case. They don't usually just have, oh, they're one thing. Like, psychology is not so simple to say you just have one thing. A lot of us, when we deal with depression and anxiety, usually they're like like they go back and forth with each other, and that's just an example of something lesser. Well, still big, but
Right.
you're not, when you're depressed and have anxiety, you're not likely to just go out and start murdering people. When you're a psychopathic narcissist and you also have a level of sociopathy, then you can turn into Ted Bundy. So, like, that's what Ted Bundy was. And he
Mm-hmm.
had a lot, and you have a lot of trauma in your past. If you have a lot of trauma in your past and you don't know how to cope like a human. So I've known levels of narcissism and maybe even sociopathy in people, but they're not like that. I think. I hope. But, you know, I I don't know, man. I have to think that he is probably some level of all the bad, all the bad mental disorders, and something that maybe he should. I would wonder if they even have a full-time psychologist with him, because that seems like someone that would be a good person to have a full-time psychologist with.
Yeah, because you want to know what the hell he was thinking.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah,
Like, what were you
I would
thinking?
read that.
And just study how he reacts to questions, how he reacts to things, to understand more about
Mm-hmm.
the minds of them. And they might. I don't know. I haven't actually looked. On this topic, I want to take something from what the viewers said. Muddy Watterson actually said this, and I want to see what you think. Muddy said, it could be mental health, seriously. I wish we'd stop the mob mentality of punishment versus trying to understand on some level. I don't think murderers ought to be walk free, but to recompensate them with violence or equal amounts of hate, what's the point? What do you think about that?
Well, so basically, are we discussing that we don't want to, give back or wish bad things upon someone that hurt others? Is that kind of?
I feel like it's like, why would we meet violence with violence? Like, if we're talking about maybe with regards to the death penalty or extreme punishment of what is it, like denying them anyone seeing them or getting any like denying them communication with the outside, stuff like that, like the punishment being extreme is what I'm assuming. Why would we,
Mhm.
instead of just trying to understand the mentality of them, and understand them on some level. Granted, I don't think that any of us people who have never murdered, I don't think we will ever understand what it's like to murder.
Right.
We will never understand that. Even if we know exactly why someone did something, we will still never understand why. So, like, even if someone goes, well, I murdered because they cheated on me, I would just be like, well, why didn't you just leave? Like, you can be mad, but why didn't you just leave? Stuff like that, where it's just like, I will never understand someone that wants to commit a horrendous, harmful crime on someone. So,
It's weird because there's some people that I believe that truly need like help, like mental help, like the shooter in Littleton, Colorado, in the movie theater, the Batman, and I sorry his name, uh, I forget his name, but I believe that he was mentally unstable for sure. And is it okay to punish people like that, like Andrea Yates, who struggled with mental illness for years, and killed all her children? I don't believe in punishment for those people. I do believe, yes, well, let them get the appropriate help in a prison mental health hospital, unfortunately, because you do have to pay for your price. But like, for some people, for some things, I am with the mom mentality for people who hurt children, or sexually assault people. Yeah,
well,
I
it's
I
like
am
they
actually 100% let them get a taste of their own medicine, and I know that that's probably not okay.
I think I'm on a like last week, the case you covered with Mary Bell, I believe. The
Yes.
little girl that killed and then got, sent into child prison, a juvie or something for a long portion of her childhood.
Right,
And
12 years.
yeah, a long portion of her childhood until she was past an adult, and she came out and lived a normal life. And I believe that is someone that got rehabilitated, and that's someone that you can work with. But I believe that that's also something that you should definitely get professional psychologists on and say, can this person be rehabilitated? And that's
Mhm.
something that they did with Ted Bundy. They got a psychologist on it, and the psychologist was like, no, he cannot be rehabilitated.
Right.
It's the same with the case I did. Why am I blanking on it now? Kitty Genovese and her murderer. The reason they never let him out on parole is because he never showed remorse. He always thought he was the victim. And so they're like, "Well, no, you got it all wrong. You're not the victim. You raped and killed several women." And he just never thought they were the victims. So they're like, "No, you're not rehabilitated then." And so I think it's something that if a psychologist goes, you know what, I think we can help them, then
Right.
it's something that maybe we should pour our resources to. But if a psychologist says, no, there's no way. This person, I'm going to say Ted Bundy again, because I watched the documentary on Netflix, the Ted Bundy tapes.
Yeah,
Like,
it was
yeah,
pretty good.
that was really good. What was great, just a small tangent again, what was great about that is that they had people who were actually involved with all of it. And were actually near him, some of which, like one girl that even like was captured by him and got away,
Right.
like knowing from the actual sources and not just from a bunch of people studying it like us. So, but Ted Bundy is a case where people were like, he's not able to be rehabilitated, he is just gone, like he is just succumbed to the monster. So there's a few. I think the Green River Killer was the same. He's just gone. They're just
Right.
gone, and it could be due to their childhood. Like they just were gone since their childhood. Some of them because they've been murdering since their childhood, or torturing or whatever. But I do. It's cases. It's certain cases like these
Right.
these ones where it's very hard to say that I I don't believe in the death penalty. Especially when the evidence is so obviously it was this guy. And there's an undeniable doubt he is guilty. and he'll never go back into humanity. Um,
No.
and it's just like it's a very interesting. He's a monster. And can he be rehabilitated? I don't know because I'm not a psychologist studying him. I'm not sitting there talking to him every day. So, I can't make that assessment, but anyone that can stare their own little girl, their 4 and 7-year-old daughters in the face and murder them is pretty far gone in my opinion. In my unprofessional opinion.
I
So,
mean, for me, it's just like, dude, you you took 4 lives. You took an unborn child's life. You took your 2 babies' lives, who had their whole life in front of them, and then you took your wife's life, who still had a who could have been super happy without you, fool. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's okay to blanket and say everybody that has committed murder deserves a death penalty. I don't think that's okay. But in this case, I think that life in prison is too kind for him. But that's
well,
just my
and he's
humble
getting
opinion.
rewarded with a ton of attention of girls who just see an attractive man. And it's I don't know, it's just too much for me because I could never imagine. I get sad when I see someone like get hit. Even if they like deserve to get punched, I still get sad cuz I'm like, "Oh, but this is a case where it's like, well, you straight up murdered your family like with your bare hands and as they were pleading for you to stop."
Right.
So, and what was sad is like apparently there is this video of the little girl, the one I think that fought back. And just like she's talking about how much she loves her dad and what a hero he is to her. And it that just
Yeah.
makes it all the worse because these little girls looked at him like a protector and like a hero. And to have that happen to someone that you're supposed to trust and love and they are your protector, do that to you, just makes it all the more messed up. It just makes it so bad.
It
So,
really is. It really is.
you had one more story for us, I think, if you wanted to briefly cover it.
I'm going to briefly cover this one. This one's crazy as well. I'm not going to go as I did with the Chris Watts case. But this story is about another person I went to high school with, and in fact, that's so strange.
You went to a strange high school.
I know, I know. It's actually a really good high school in the area. But this guy, I met him. His name is Nick Holbert, and I had met him through my best friend at the time. Um, was friends with him through church, and we all had like a little. He would come over to my friend's house to go swimming because my friend lived in a very nice neighborhood with his own in-ground pool, and it was great. So Nick Colbert came over, and we had like a pool party. And I remember, when you're kids, you play like spin the bottle, truth or dare. Well, I remember one of the dares was like to kiss this guy. All right, so let me just lead into that saying, I had kissed this guy before. That's way more than me even talking to Chris Watts, I feel. But Chris Holbert is a man who was sentenced to life in prison for beating of a Fort Bragg soldier named Kelly Bordeaux. Um, so what had happened with this case is that I remember this Fort Bragg soldier named Kelly Bordeaux. She went missing, and her husband couldn't find her. Her husband had been out of town. Apparently, Kelly had went out to a local bar, and she was last seen with this guy named Nick Holbert, who I knew. Now, Nick Holbert I remember when he got suspended from school, or he just stopped going to school. I don't remember, but there was rumors that he got locked up for molesting a child. So I remembered that after he stopped coming to school. But but apparently Kelly Bordeaux had found was last seen leaving this bar in the area with Holbert, and they couldn't find her. And they suspected him for the longest time because he was the last person seeing her. Well, it turns out that this local guy befriended Holbert in an effort to get the story out of him about Kelly. So, Holbert ended up being homeless and, just living in a tent behind the bar that Bordeaux was last seen at. And he initially, the guy befriended Holbert and gave him a job and started talking to him. And then, he was slowly drawing it out of him. He's like, dude, do you want to tell me anything that happened? Because, they say that you were the last person seen with Kelly Bordeaux. And so, eventually Nick Holbert came clean to this man who had given him a job and like given him food and like a place to stay. And unfortunately, like 2 years after her disappearance, they found her remains off about 4 miles from the bar, in a wooded area near the Cape Fear River. And it's actually super crazy, how long he had kept that to himself. And they say sometime during the evening, Bordeaux became aware that Holbert was a registered sex offender. And when they left the bar together in the early hours of April 14, 2012, Holbert asked if he could see her again, and Bordeaux said no and called him a sex offender. So then he punched her, knocked her out, dragged her from his car, and drove her to the makeshift camp where he lived. When Bordeaux came to, she started screaming, and Holbert beat her until she stopped screaming and stopped moving. He then, the following morning, took her out and buried her in the woods. So, like I said, he literally, just disposed of her. So in late 2013, David Marshburn, a private investigator from Smithfield who was looking for Bordeaux, befriended Holbert, and several months later, Holbert took Marshburn to Bordeaux's grave. So, yeah.
Gee, I think I have heard about that. Yeah, because it was the detective that got close to him, and then it was like, he just gave me pretty much everything. And that's happened in multiple cases that I've listened to, actually, or learned about. The detective becoming the friend. And I don't know if it's the sense, with some of it's like the sense of bragging. And then some of it I think is like the sense of like, I just have to get this out.
Getting it out, yeah.
And I feel
That's
like,
what I think happened.
I think with this guy, he did kill a woman. I feel like he had to get it out though. Like he had to tell someone. And that, I feel like he would be someone, well, he was a registered sex offender. But
Right.
maybe he could have been rehabilitated from the murder and whatnot. Because it doesn't seem like someone who was very proud of what he did, especially if he didn't do it again.
Right.
So,
knowing him a little bit better than I knew Chris Watts, and I say I like barely. I know that he had dated, a few of my friends. It came out that he was like, a sex offender. He seemed very chill and very like remorseful, and like just a shy boy.
yeah.
And stuff. So I don't know. Like I did have one friend that said that he, is very emotionally manipulative and stuff like that. But I didn't date him like that. I just hung out with him a few times, and then that was it. So
Emotionally manipulative is a very common thing amongst like high school relationships, though.
well,
And
yeah,
young
true that.
relationships. Anything like below 30, I feel like a lot of those relationships end up in some sort of like emotional baggage. And
Mm-hmm.
not all, obviously, but quite a few. Quite a few. But yeah, so I don't think being emotionally manipulative makes you a killer necessarily, just a terrible person to be in a relationship with that needs maybe some therapy or a
Right.
lot. But yeah, that I did hear about that case, and it feels like it was like a one-off. So
Yeah. There and one more quick one. Another set of two students that I went to high school with, they were a year younger than me. They ended up driving across the country on a killing spree at various rest areas, and then they got caught. But I believe
Gee.
I don't. I'm telling you, I think I went to a very bad high. It was a good high school, but it was like,
There are a lot of bad people in it.
yeah.
Jeez.
So yeah.
That I know of, no one in my high school has been in jail for murder.
It's good.
Or prison, I should say, for murder. Even I believe in self-defense or anything. So, especially for purposefully killing someone. So, oh my gosh. Mine is also a one-off murder. I was raised I'm in Kansas right now, but I was raised in a small town in Kansas about 45 minutes outside of Kansas City. And
Okay.
so there wasn't a lot of work where I lived, so I went to work in the city. And I actually worked up there for a while at a retail store. And so
Okay.
I had been driving up to the city since high school, because I also went to a giant private high school in the Kansas City area as well. And I went to community college and then an off branch of the state university. All around. So for like so many years of my life, I'm just driving up there. So it was awesome. But I ended up working part time at a retail store, and honestly, I considered it like motivation to stay in college, because
Gotcha.
it was awful. It was awful, and I had plenty of friends, but I didn't make a lot of friends with like the people I worked with. I mainly just stuck to my college friends. But I remember one day when I was leaving, I was done with work and I was just out of there. And I got stopped at the door by a manager of mine. And he's like, "I can't let you leave yet." And I was just like, "Okay. Did I do something wrong?" And he's like, "No, someone's been kidnapped and they're about your age and it's a girl." And he's like, "We're not letting any of the women leave by themselves. They have to be buddied up and leave together." And so I trusted him because my manager, he was great. And there was like no red flags really, because I didn't know what was
Hmm.
really going on. But I just trusted him because we usually joked around and he was so serious. And so, yeah, so as he was walking out, he told me about the girl that had gone missing. And the girl that went missing was only like a few minutes away from where I was. So it was at a Target. So I'm actually going to be talking about Kelsey Smith. And
Okay.
so I didn't realize this at the time because I didn't pay attention to the news because I was working, I was full-time in college, and I was playing video games like it was a full-time job. So, but I didn't realize it at the time, but this case made national news, and it was on, I think, America's Most Wanted. And I remember my mom, I was about 20, 21 at the time, and my mom got super protective during this time because of like just I was the ideal suspect also. Like not suspect. No, I was not the ideal suspect. I was the ideal woman that could be targeted. Cuz I was young. And so Kelsey Ann Smith was a teenager living in Overland Park, Kansas. And so she was a few years younger than me. She was 18, I believe, or 19. And she was last seen at 7:07 p.m. on June the 2nd in 2007 in a parking lot at a Target store in the Oak Park Mall. So I actually shopped at this mall. I went there like once a week just to chill between college classes.
That's scary, dude.
Yeah. And I was a total, okay, so just a little story. I would go in between my classes because some of my classes had 4 hours in between. So I would go and I would
Right.
just sit there and listen to music and like just people watch. Is that creepy?
No,
Am
because
I
I did that too.
okay? I was like, am I creepy? Am I like the only person? Because I feel like I was a total creeper, but yeah, I found it relaxing. But surveillance video from the Target was, I feel like, in 2007 a little bit ahead of its time maybe, because them and Walmart had cameras everywhere. Like they had cameras everywhere, and now I feel like every store does the same. Even not restaurants, even gas stations do the same, where there's just cameras everywhere. So surveillance video from the Target showed Kelsey Smith purchasing a present for her boyfriend to celebrate 6 months together, and her last call had been made from within the Target while shopping, and it was to her mother, asking for advice. So it was approximately like 4 hours later that her car, which was a 1990 Ford Crown Vic, was found abandoned outside a Macy's in the Oak Park Mall parking lot. So, but her purse and her wallet and even what she had bought was left in the car. And so that's what had triggered her family, that something was very, very seriously wrong.
Hmm.
And they had already thought something was wrong because they knew that she was going to get a present and coming back to wrap it because her boyfriend was coming over. So they already knew something was wrong. Uh, but I knew Target had a lot of cameras at the time, but they actually have a forensic services division that like can enhance, like, you know, in CSI where they're like enhance. They can actually do that. They can enhance the footage, and they're like built around that. So, and I don't know if it's mostly just to stop people from stealing, but in this case, Target was the real winners of solving this case. So the footage on camera showed her parking her car and it shopping, and it even showed where she called her mother. And she didn't seem to talk to anyone that was there except for the cashier. And the cashier said that there was nothing really unusual, that she didn't seem like rushed or scared, that she just like was buying something.
Right.
There was strong evidence that she had been abducted from the footage, however, because the footage showed someone, it not only showed someone following her around, so it showed this male figure that had been in every single shot of the camera from a distance looking at her. Never confronting her, though. Never talking to
Jesus.
her. Yeah, and then there was footage that showed her actually being abducted in her car, in her own vehicle. So, um, according to the forensic program, or according to the program, my bad, according to the TV program See No Evil, the Macy's surveillance video showed that the car had been left about 2 hours after her car left the Target parking lot. And a figure in a white shirt and dark pants was seen leaving the vehicle and running towards the street, but it was too dark to tell if it was a male or female. Uh, but
Gotcha.
but the Target video showed a suspicious 70s era Chevrolet truck leaving at about the same time. So after the car had been dropped off at the Macy's, Target, just like a few minutes later, the Chevy left. And this was, I mean, this was at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So it's not like there was a ton. Target's closed. The mall's closed.
Right.
So the detectives, doing their detective-like duties, concluded that she was singled out for abduction. So they went and looked at the footage. And that's where they found that the male figure in all of the shots of her, like a total creeper. The police then released the footage to the public, wanting tips, but nothing good came from it. And what was interesting is I remember them talking about this. I do remember it because I remember my mom talking about it to me, and then having me look at like the TV on the news, even though honestly I was, like I said, I was 20. And so I
Right.
was just like, Mom, please, I don't want it. This is too much. It's just too much. And but I still remember it. And in the footage, it appeared he made no effort to talk to her. And then when Kelsey went to check out, he just left the Target. He didn't check anything out. Uh,
Okay.
so the police then released the. Wait, I already did that. They did a sweep of her vehicle looking for fingerprints, and they did find one identified fingerprint on her seatbelt. Obviously, they also found her family and her boyfriend and all that inside
Hmm.
the car, which was normal. After looking over the footage again, they found a clean shot of the suspect, a white male, walking into Target just after she had arrived. And then they released that footage. So the search for her began. Uh, Police detectives reportedly, or detective reportedly found the body because of a cell phone ping that originated around the area on June the 2nd. It's crazy how they can find you from a cell phone ping, and it was her boyfriend that had been pinging her, calling her, looking for, asking where she was. Despite the efforts by local law enforcement and eventually the FBI, it took Verizon Wireless 4 days to hand over the cell phone records to investigators. They pinpointed the cell phone tower and told investigators to search 1.1 miles north of the tower. It took them 45 minutes when Verizon told them that to actually discover her body, and that was on June 6th. In a wooded area near Longview Lake in southern Jackson County, about 18 to 20 miles away from where she was abducted. And I believe this was on the Missouri side, so this is no longer in Kansas. The cause of death was determined to be strangulation. She had been choked with her own belt, and the autopsy also showed that she had been raped. So the man was actually recognized by his neighbor. And it wasn't because, I don't believe it was because of the footage. I think it was because of the car as well. So he's like, well, this looks like the man, but then he has this car.
Right.
So on the evening of June 6th, the police arrested 26-year-old Edwin Roy Hall, who was in the process of leaving town with his wife and son.
Like to move away or just
On
leave?
vacation. On a
Gotcha.
vacation. It always blows my mind it blows my mind that anyone can commit a horrendous crime, but it really blows my mind when they have a family.
Right.
Just like the Kitty Genovese, where the guy was married with a child. It just blows my mind. Hall was charged with premeditated first-degree murder and aggravated kidnapping. He had no criminal record, but had a juvenile record of assault. Hall had been adopted at age 7 and was returned to state custody at age 15 after threatening the family's daughter with a knife. He also assaulted another boy by striking him in the head with a baseball bat. Hall admitted to being in the target but claimed he never approached her, but was caught in his lies when they matched his fingerprints to her seatbelt. So his bond was set at $5 million, so he was not getting out. And because the body had been found in a different state, some argued for federal jurisdiction, but Hall was arrested in Kansas. So so Kansas had legal authority to pursue his case. So on July 23rd of 2008, as part of a plea agreement, he pleaded guilty to all 4 charges brought against him. It is believed that Hall spotted her driving around when he arrived and noticed she was alone, and thus he began following her throughout the store. And when he saw that no one was really coming, like there was no like person meeting her there, like no boyfriend or anything, then he left before she did and waited for her to go to her car and then struck her and kidnapped her. The hearing came a day after the judge ruled that prosecutors could still seek the death penalty because they were trying. Oh yeah, what happened is they were trying to plead. Oh wait, no. What happened is, oh sorry, my bad. I got distracted for a second. So the judge denied a defense motion seeking the dismissal of the case due to a technicality. I didn't find what that technicality was, but the whole case almost got dismissed because of a technicality. And that would have been pretty awful in my opinion.
Yeah.
But on September 16th of 2008, Judge Peter Ruddick sentenced Hall to life in prison without parole for the kidnapping, rape, and murder of Kelsey Smith. So one thing that from this case that was very interesting to me is that it took Verizon so long to release the records, and part of that was due to privacy concerns. You can't just release someone's information like that. It's a private concern. Like, what if she was running away and all of that? But Verizon, that's what their justification was. But
well, that's what I was going to ask you about. That's the question I have for people in chat or people that are coming into the discussion later, listening to it on Spotify or wherever. Do you think it's okay for Verizon to hold the records for as long as they do, or do you think it's okay for cell phone companies in a case of a disappearance or?
Well, I'm actually going into that.
Sorry.
So they did this due to privacy laws because pretty much all cell phone providers would generally comply upon request of the subscriber, but no one else, and that's including law enforcement, unless a court order was issued. So this led to the creating of the Kelsey Smith Act, a law which states that, in essence, a cell phone company can ping a cell phone if authorities determine that the subscriber is in danger. Most U.S. states have passed this law, and the U.S. Congress is debating federalizing it. So an act actually was put in place, so that way the next time this happens and it's like, well, we can't find her, we don't know where she is or he is, we believe that they are in danger, the authorities can reach out to a cell phone company and say, can you ping? We're looking for this person.
Right.
So, and here is a good story from this act that happened. In at least one instance, the act was acted upon when a thief stole a car with a baby inside. So, in February of 2015, also in Kansas, a man stole a car unaware that a 5-month-old infant was in the car seat. While in flight, he also ran down a pedestrian in a hit and run. The police found the car a half hour later at a convenience store after having pinged the mother's cell phone, which was still in her purse in the front seat. So the mother must have like very briefly gotten out or something, and then because her purse was still in the seat. It's not like she went in a store. So it must have very briefly gotten out. Someone stole the car, and they were able to ping her phone, which was still inside the car, and they found it at a convenience store with the baby still inside. Now, the driver escaped, and as of 2015, still has not been found. But it is believed that once he realized that there was a baby inside, that he decided to ditch the car and stole another one. So, because of that, they were like, if he had ditched that car in the middle of nowhere just because there was a baby inside, it would have taken them hours, possibly days. But because of that, they were able to immediately start locating her phone from inside the car. And
good guy robber.
Yeah.
Leaving the baby at the store.
Yeah, because there's been atrocious stories of robbers stealing cars and then babies being inside and not making it. Right. So, but yeah, this is one that had at least kind of a heart. Stole and ran down someone, but let the baby go. So, yeah. But so that was an instance where it actually had benefited largely them able to immediately track where this baby was. And I what do you think about the act?
No, absolutely. I believe that it's a good act. I'd go even further, saying that anytime authorities need anything on a phone, I think they should be able to get it. Why I say this is because I believe it was with the San Diego shooters, the iPhone, Apple was in a case against because I believe authorities wanted to unlock the iPhone to see if they can get some more information about the terrorist act, but Apple denied the request to unlock it because they felt it was violation of someone's rights. But I believe that if you commit a crime, especially like a terroristic act, a murder, any of that stuff, like it's all fair game, dude, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Well, in this case, they're not actually, especially in this case, they're not like if it was Kelsey, they weren't pinging a criminal. They were pinging a missing girl, a missing teenager. And then in the other case, they're pinging the mother's phone to find a baby. So it's not like they're pinging someone. I mean, they would locate the criminal if they ended up finding him in the process, but they're not pinging the criminal. They're pinging the victims, essentially. And even then, if you ping Kelsey and she had just run away, which she didn't, she was murdered. But if she had just run away, then it's a situation where it's like, well, you need to probably explain to your parents and your boyfriend why you just ran away and didn't tell them. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just one of those situations where, well, people were looking for you. In those instances, I don't really see the harm in allowing authorities to have access to pinging.
Yeah, me too.
If you know someone committed a crime, like if you have them on undeniable doubt, like, you know, yeah, it was my neighbor. I saw him do it. I was right there. And when he saw me, he ran. And they know that, then it would be like, I wonder then what would be the thoughts on being able to ping that person to try and find them. Like if they have their phone on them, which would not be very smart. But
no.
You know, I wonder what that then would be the issue, because you're using it then to locate a criminal who did something versus locating a victim, a potential victim. So
it's very interesting.
I know that there's been some privacy concerns with a lot of people who have said, well, I don't know if I feel how I feel about this, but honestly, I'm again, agreeing with Muddy Watterson on this point at least, that I don't believe in it, that anything's really private from the internet or anything that's connected to Wi-Fi or anything. I don't think that anything's private anymore. So Google knows so much about us, it's ridiculous. They probably know more about you than you know about yourself. That's how I feel, at least. Like,
well, I mean, they listen to your phone calls anyways. I mean,
yeah.
they
Tinfoil hat time. Tinfoil hat time.
I mean, I'll say something about donuts now, and then in a few minutes on my browser will be donuts. Crazy.
It is crazy how you're like, you'll be thinking about something and be like, I didn't even know I needed that, but I was just thinking about it and now I see an ad for it. What is Amazon doing right now?
Right. It's crazy.
And I just have this like idea, especially in this case in particular. It's not just cell phones. Nothing's private anymore. They caught this guy because of Target surveillance and mall surveillance. They were able to actually, and it was because of Target being able to enhance their videos so well that they have a whole team built around this, and Target essentially caught him because there was no way. It was like undeniable evidence, like this is the guy, and then the neighbor recognized him from the footage. So that's absolutely, I mean, that's completely not private. You feel like you're alone in your own world, but you never know when you're going to be on camera. So
all the time. You're on camera all the time. Like this past year, someone hit my car while I was in a restaurant eating and drove away. And of course, there was cameras out in the parking lot. So I don't know. I don't think the cop was able to get a license plate off of it, but they saw somebody hit the car, so I wasn't hanged out the butt from insurance because someone hit the car. I wasn't there. You know what I mean? It's not like I ran into something.
yeah.
So, you're on camera everywhere, literally.
I believe it was it See No Evil was the thing I was watching on this, and it was basically like just laying out the kidnapping, or well, the disappearance and the discovery and the trial. But one thing it did is it had the parents actually talking, and I believe the father was a police officer at the time. And he got to the point where like he wanted to like bust into her car and bust into the trunk because there was like a piece of clothing out, like locked in the trunk, hanging out. And when the family saw that, he said he had to fight everything he could to not just go and open the trunk, because if he did, it would have contaminated. But they were just in pure terror because they're like, oh, she's in the trunk. But there was nothing. It was just her clothing. And they gave, the father was very stern, but the mother, something about hearing the family, especially the mother's talk, is just so hard. It's just so difficult to watch it. So I did watch that.
Babies.
Do what?
That's her babies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're gonna. Yeah, it is super sad to hear, about parents losing their children or vice versa. Like it's more so, as children, I do expect to eventually one day bury my parents, right? So it's really hard for parents to do the opposite and bury their children or not know what happened to them or if they were scared and various things,
Because, I mean, most good parents or decent parents, they want to see their kids thrive. They want to see them live a life of their own. And I mean, everything my mom did when I was growing up was for me, hoping that I would have a good life and I would have a successful life. And I can only imagine. I remember my mom, I think, even said something like the worst thing that could happen to her was if something happened to me. And that she's like, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. And yeah. And so, and I remember thinking that too, like, because I went through bouts of really bad depression. And I remember I was like, I don't want to get worse. I want to get better because I don't want anything to happen to me. Because I don't want to upset my mom. It's crazy. And that just got really, really dark. Sorry. Got really dark. It's already dark, but this case, it's something that I didn't know Kelsey Smith personally. It was just really close by. I don't really know any large or any prominent criminals, honestly, from my high school days. So or from my town. So that was one that affected me, but very I guess indirectly. So, and it was very unfortunate whenever I do remember seeing the final interview when they found the body, and the father was there on camera and he was crying, and he's like, I just I'm I wouldn't say happy, but we got closure. We found the body, and he's like, I know my daughter, and I know that she wouldn't go out without a fight. And he was just, it was, I do remember that did affect me. So I don't know, but oh man, what gruesome stories. Yours,
Super, yeah.
I knew your first one. I knew both of yours actually. Well, not the cross country ones, but I did know your first two. So,
Ugh. After these, I just feel dirty after these podcasts. I feel dirty and
yeah.
sad because, once again, you want to show respect to the families and everything, and
I mean,
it gives you.
both of mine have had good things come from a very horrible situation, like the Kelsey Smith Act. I feel like is a good thing to come from it. 911 in New York was enacted after Kitty Genovese, and a lot of deep psychology dives because of Kitty Genovese as well. The guy that was convicted in Kelsey Smith's case, it was a one-off. He was married with family, and it was literally just people were like, he did it because he just wanted to. She was an attractive woman who was young, and she, even from the photos, you can tell she was popular. You can tell that she was beaming life, and was, I guess, a prime target. It was a crime of opportunity. Then more. I mean, it makes you wonder though. Would he have done it again if you hadn't caught him? Would he have done it
Right.
again? Because I feel like it's like he got that taste for blood. Would he have done it again? And I would wonder, because that is how it usually starts with one. So he had a bad upbringing. He had, yeah, I don't know. Um, there's not really any questions in the chat about this, but someone did say, are we going to cover international killers in the future? And we will. We do have that as an actual topic. Plus, we're going to do, like we said before, topics from you all, from the listeners, so that people have been putting in Discord, and if they've been putting on Facebook. I did check. I don't think there's any updates on the Facebook. I think our Discord's popping. Like,
Oh, for sure.
our Facebook has like 19 people, but our Discord's popping. It's got over 100 now. We have people talking at least once a day. And so, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And this was a good week. Next week, I'm excited for every week for the next 16 weeks.
Do you want to tease what we're talking about next week?
I kind of want to keep it a surprise.
Okay.
I'd like to keep it a surprise for each week. I don't even remember. Hold on. I gotta remember what it is.
To kind of look too.
Yes. I'm ready for next week. Okay. I want to tease it now. Straight out of a horror story is the topic. And it's not necessarily going to be things from scary movies. It's going to be things that are so, like, kind of gruesome that it doesn't seem like it's real life. Like, how could this possibly... It can be also, if you choose, it could also be literally straight out of a horror story. So, but...
Yep.
I have one I've been wanting to talk about, and I've been not talking about it on my stream, but talking about how I want to talk about it.
I remember you telling me what you were going to talk about.
Yeah.
When this came up, so I know you're pretty excited.
It's not that I'm excited, it's that it's so, like, I've never heard. It doesn't seem real, but it is. And it's a case that has an actual good outcome. So I'm excited. I need to not say anymore. I'm spoiling it.
Yeah.
Stop me. Someone stop
Shut it
me.
up. Shut it up.
Shut up. Discord is actually linked in chat, and if this is YouTube, it'll be linked in the description. Spotify, can we link it anywhere? We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out, yeah, for sure.
And from now on, it's gonna be every Thursday is our podcast, and it'll go up live on other things on Friday. So if you're waiting for it and you want to just listen to audio, or you want to watch the VOD because you can't make it, then Friday. Friday it is.
Which is super exciting. Give you guys something to listen to over the weekend. Have those discussions with one another on the Facebook or in the Discord, and just basically ping us and let us know what you want us to talk about. We're more than open to listen to you guys' cases as well, or things that you guys want to hear.
There have been people talking with each other, and there's been people saying hello every day. It seems to be the common thing in the general. Hello. So we just need to. That's what we need to do when we get in start our cases. Like, hello. Now it's time to start. But
let's go.
Anyway, now that I don't know how to end a podcast yet, and I don't know how to begin it, so this is something we're gonna have to learn, because I just don't know. I don't know how to end it. So
I got this.
My name is Pocket, and you already know that by now. And you can find me at Pocket, Pokket, on Twitter and on Twitch, and Pocket Official on Instagram. You don't need to follow that. That's just cosplay stuff and outfits and stuff. That has nothing to do with the serial killing. But yeah, if you want to follow me, you can follow me there. And then I think it's Killer Seriously on Twitter. I couldn't get Seriously Killer, so I got Killer Seriously.
It still works.
It does. And where can they find you?
You can find me at Wish on twitch.tv /Wish. You can also find me on Twitter at Wishfully, WISHFUIIY TV. And make sure you guys tune in next Thursday for the live Seriously Killer podcast with Pocket and Wish on Pocket channel.
Are you just going to take over ending it for me? I'm okay with this.
You can watch it. You can watch it live.
No, you already did a great job. No, you're done.
Live. Oh, I'm done? Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're done. This is it. We're done. We're done, son. We're out of here. Don't forget to end your Audacity. I probably could have done that afterwards. I could have. Never mind. You know what? Never mind.
Ending it.